Hello and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to News Cycle on Global Television, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Mukhtar Kasim. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and on Star Times channel 276. We begin from the nation's capital, where President Bola Tinubu has forwarded a list of 3 ambassadorial nominees to the Nigerian Senate for confirmation. Senate President Godswill Akpabio announced the submission during Wednesday's plenary session. The nominees are Kayode Are from Ogun State, Aminu Dalhatu from Jigawa State, and Ayodele Oke. In the meantime, the 24 schoolgirls abducted from the Government Girls Secondary School, Maga, in Danko local government area of Kebbi State, have been rescued. Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, confirmed this in a statement, noting that President Bola Tinubu commended security agencies for their efforts in securing the freedom of the victims and called on them to intensify operations to rescue students who are still in captivity. In another development, President Bola Tinubu has ordered a 24-hour security cordon around forest in Kwara, Kebbi, and Niger State to link up with the boots on ground, following a surge in kidnapping and terrorist activities. Special Advisor to the President on Media and Public Communication, Sunday Dare, stated this in a post on his X handle, that President Tinubu ordered the Nigerian Air Force to intensify aerial surveillance over the deepest stretches of the forest where criminals were believed to be hiding. President Tinubu's directive came after 20 people, including a pregnant woman, nursing mother, and children, were abducted Monday evening in a fresh attack on Isapa, a community just 5 kilometers from Iruku in Kwara State. Former National Chairman of the All Progressive Congress, APC, and former Kano State Governor, Dr. Abdullahi Umar Ganduje, has condemned the deadly bandit raid on Tanyawa, Shanono, and Bokwe communities, which left 3 people dead and several women and children kidnapped. In a statement signed by Dr. Ganduje's Chief of Staff and former Commissioner for Information and Internal Affairs in Kano State, Mohammed Garba, noted that the former APC National Chairman described the attacks as tragic assault on communal peace. Dr. Ganduje extended his heartfelt condolence to the bereaved families and residents of the affected communities, calling for urgent intelligence-driven action from the Kano State government. The Senate has adjourned plenary following the passing of one of its members, Senator Okechukwu Ezia, who represented Enugu North Senatorial District. Topsy Gimba has the details.
The city began with routine proceedings, including the approval of the votes and proceedings from the previous session. New committee appointments were also announced, with Senator Austin Akubondo named Vice Chairman of the Senate Committee on the FCT, and Senator Isita Ungu assigned to the Committee on Air Force. But the mood shifted when Senate leader Okoyemi Bamidele announced the sad news of Senator Ezia's demise. He described it as a painful loss to the Red Chamber and moved a motion to adjourn the plenary as a mark of respect.
Announce the passing of distinguished Senator Okechukwu Ezia, representing Enugu North Senatorial District of Enugu State and member of the Labour Party, who died on Tuesday, 18th November 2025. Mr. President, consistent with our tradition as well as our parliamentary customs and conventions, I will be moving that we suspend all further legislative activities for the day.
Following the motion, the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, led the chamber in observing a minute silence. He also ordered arrangements for a condolence visit to the late senator's family.
2 motions have been moved by the leader of the Senate. One is the demise of our colleague, distinguished Senator Ezia. The second is that, in line with parliamentary practices worldwide, that we suspend all deliberations for today to go and pay condolence on the family. Those in support of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. However,
the Senate has adjourned until the next Legislative Day and will hold a valedictory session in tribute to Senator Ezia. Topsy Gimba, reporting for Global Television News.
The House of Representatives dedicated its entire plenary session to Nigeria's worsening security crisis. Speaker Tajuddin Abbas, lawmakers took turn in raising motions insisting that the fight against insecurity must go beyond routine rhetorics. They called for stronger political will at all levels of government to confront insurgents, bandits, and criminal networks head-on. National Assembly correspondent Anita Patrick has the details.
A somber mood inside Nigeria's Green Chamber as Speaker Tajuddin Abbas leads lawmakers into a special session devoted solely to the country's rising insecurity. The Speaker urges Nigerians not to bow to the fear terrorists and bandits are trying to spread. Speaker Abbas warns that beyond bullets and bombs, fake news and misinformation now threaten national stability, escalating panic and eroding trust in authorities. He appeals to citizens and lawmakers to rely on verified sources only.
These incidents remind us of the scale of the threat we face and the seriousness of the work before us.
The House leader Julius Nyubere, reviewing security trends across the 6 geopolitical zones, highlighted alarming figures of thousands killed, over 24,000 violent incidents in the last year, and millions displaced. The warned that insecurity, if not contained, threatens the nation's economic survival.
There is now a recognition that just a direct military engagement may not solve this problem. There is an urgent need for what is now popularly called the non-kinetic, because at the end of the day, some communities and individuals are involved.
The House identified key national priorities: clear political will at all levels, modernization of defense systems, stronger intelligence and community policing, technology-driven operations, and urgent fencing and protection of schools under the Safe Schools project.
When I hear people praise government is doing well. Are we sincere? Government is still sleeping.
The Deputy Speaker, Benjamin Kalu, in his remarks said Nigeria has strong deterrent laws but weak implementation. He said what Nigeria needs now is structured legislative reform, not just military responses.
That Nigeria possesses strong deterrent laws. We don't have paucity of laws, we have strong laws. But what we suffer is weak institutional implementation.
The plenary was attended by foreign diplomats, civil society groups, and visiting parliamentarians. Honored victims of recent attacks with a minute of silence. Speaker Abbas commended President Bola Tinubu for what he called swift and coordinated response to the recent wave of kidnappings and killings. From the National Assembly, Anita Patrick, reporting for Global TV News.
Let's move away from the National Assembly to Zamfara State, where the First Lady of the state, Huriya Dauda Lawal, has officially flagged off the 2025 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, with a strong call for collective action to eliminate all forms of violence, both physical and digital, against women and girls. She said this year's theme, Unite, End Digital Violence Against Women and Girls, draws attention to a growing and often overlooked reality that online abuse causes real psychological, emotional, and social harm. Nafisa Baba has the stories.
This year's theme focuses on the rapid rise of technology-driven violence, including cyber-stalking, online harassment, unsolicited sharing of private images, digital blackmail, and misinformation targeted at women and girls. Speaking at the launch of this year's 16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence, the Zamfara First Lady described gender-based violence as a growing threat to societal well-being and development. She expressed concern that digital platforms originally created for communication, learning, and innovations are increasingly being used as tools for harassment, cyberbullying, blackmail, and exploitation. She stressed that digital violence must be taken as seriously as physical violence, as both have lasting consequences.
In this fast-growing digital world, our phones, our devices, and our social media platforms have become extensions of our lives. Sadly, they have also become tools for harassment, bullying, blackmail, exploitation, cyber-talking, and emotional violence. Online abuse is not virtual. It is cause of real pain, real trauma, and real harm.
The Zamfara State Commissioner for Women Affairs and Social Development, Hajia Aisha Anka, reaffirmed the state government's commitment to protecting the dignity, safety, and rights of all citizens. She described gender-based violence as a major barrier to family stability, community development, and social progress.
Today, we join the global community in raising our voices to demand an end to all forms of violence against women, girls, children, and vulnerable persons in our society. A call to action, a reminder that the well-being, dignity, and safety of every woman and girl must be protected at all times.
Participants at the event urged victims of gender-based violence, whether online or offline, to speak up and seek help without fear. They also called on stakeholders, community leaders, and the media to intensify awareness campaigns to ensure that every woman and girl in Zamfara is protected. Nafisa Baba, Global TV News.
You're watching the live broadcast of News Cycle. When News Cycle returns, Central Bank of Nigeria holds rate as inflation falls for the 7th straight month. Details coming shortly, plus business and foreign stories on the other side of this break. Please stay with us. You're welcome back from that break, and now to business news, where in a move aimed at keeping inflation in check, the Central Bank of Nigeria has held the monetary policy rate at 27%, insisting that this decision will give easy tightening measures more time to impact the economy. The bank also confirmed that more financial institutions are strengthening their capital positions, with 16 banks meeting the minimum requirement and 27 others raising fresh capital. Business correspondent Kikelamo Okere has the details.
At the final Monetary Policy Committee meeting of the year in Abuja, CBN Governor Olayemi Cardoso announced that the bank has recovered 2 trillion naira from the past intervention programs over the last 2 years. Although more than 4.69 trillion naira remains outstanding, the MPC maintained the benchmark interest rate at 27% and adjusted the asymmetric corridor to plus 50 and minus 450 basis points. The central bank says its stance reflects the need to consolidate progress in slowing inflation.
The committee decided by a majority vote to maintain the current monetary policy stance with an adjustment to the corridor as follows. 1. Retain the monetary policy rate MPR at 27%. The committee's decision was underpinned by the need to sustain the progress made so far towards achieving low and stable inflation.
On intervention form, Governor Cardoso explained that the bank cannot introduce new programs while a substantial portion of old interventions remains unpaid. A CBN review shows total commitment of about 10.93 trillion naira since 2010, with 4.69 trillion naira still outstanding. Despite this improvement, inflation remains elevated. The MPC believes holding rates steady will help sustain disinflation and allow the impact of previous rate hikes to flow fully into the real economy. Kike Lomo Okeri, Global Television News.
Still talking business, the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association in Kano State is calling on the federal government to review the petroleum subsidy removal policy, as continuous price fluctuations are forcing many marketers out of business. Global Television correspondent Jibrin Idris reports that nearly 40% of petroleum marketers in the state have already shut down operations.
At the start of his administration, President Bola Tinubu announced the removal of petroleum subsidy a decision that immediately triggered a sharp hike in fuel prices nationwide. The ripple effect has been a persistent rise in the cost of living, driven largely by increased transportation expenses. While government maintains that the subsidy removal is intended to strengthen the nation's economy, Nigerians continue to buy fuel at highly unstable and often exorbitant prices that changes almost daily.
Many people now, they park their cars. They cannot even afford to always buy fuel and then to transport themselves. Even me, I always used to do it maybe 2 or 3 times a week.
According to independent petroleum marketers in Kano, this unpredictable price fluctuation has become their biggest challenge. Many have lost their capital to the unstable market, leaving several stations unable to continue operations. The problem of price fluctuation is mainly from the depot where we used to buy the fuel. For example, if you buy 100 naira fuel, you will be expected to include your transportation cost on the pump price. But before you even reach Kano from Lagos, you may hear that the fuel has dropped with 20 naira. They warn that unless the federal government review the subsidy removal policy, particularly by introducing a regulated minimum or maximum price, Nigerians will continue to struggle with high fuel cost, while many more marketers risk being pushed out of business. We actually need government intervention by giving us notice of increase or decrease price. Because before the start of this problem, we have people with 10 to 20 trucks, but today they have been reduced to only 1 truck. Fuel is not scarce in Kano at the moment, but there is no uniform pump price, as filling stations continue to sell at different rates across the states. From Kano, Idris Jibrin, Global Television News.
And now to news making rounds on the foreign scene. The United Nations says resurgence in terror attacks and instability, particularly in northern Nigeria, are pushing hunger to unprecedented level. Head of the United Nations World Food Programme Office in Nigeria's north, Emmanuel Begamina, which has shared footage of medical treatment and food distribution in the region, noted that hunger is now reaching levels more than they have been in many years. Here's the rest of the story with Uyi Agmonfuegbe.
The UN agency also stated that nearly 35 million people in northern Nigeria are projected to face severe food insecurity during the 2026 lean season, which stretches from May to September. In Borno State, which has been designated the epicenter of the 16-year-long insurgency, the United Nations said around 15,000 people are projected to reach catastrophic hunger or famine-like conditions.
Here in northeast Nigeria, we are witnessing a deterioration of hunger and malnutrition. Insurgent attacks have intensified and communities are carrying the weight of this. Hunger is now reaching levels we have not seen in years. If families cannot eat and fear continues to grow, desperation will take hold. Armed groups can use that desperation to tighten their grip, putting the wider region even at greater risk.
The conflict has killed more than 40,000 people and displaced around 2 million others in the northeast, with a spill into neighboring countries. Uyi Agbomofuegbe, reporting for Global TV News.
Where officials who have counted ballots for a second day after deeming the votes peaceful said the result of the country's presidential and legislative elections are expected on Thursday. The compilation and counting of ballots, which began as soon as polling stations closed on Sunday evening, continued into Monday. Zara'u Nasir has the details.
The Bissau campaign headquarters of the two main candidates, incumbent President Umaru Sissoko Embalo and opposition leader Bernardo Diaz, were quiet as the city's residents went about business as usual. Head of ECOWAS observation mission, Yusufu Brema Kamara, expressed satisfaction with the process.
Were conducted in a peaceful, orderly, and professional manner from the commencement to the closing and counting phases, despite few initial organizational and set up deficiencies observed.
Kamara also cautioned politicians and political parties against preemptive actions, including announcement of speculative results.
Consequently, the mission enjoins all candidates, political parties, and coalitions to strictly abide by extant laws and refrain from prematurely circulating or announcing uncertified results as required by law.
On Sunday, a turnout of just above 65% was announced, with the figure was likely to rise above the final count. Turnout in the country's 2019 presidential election was 73%. Zahra Nasr reporting for Global TV News.
And now to the exciting world of sport, where Manchester City manager Pep Guardiola has shouldered the blame for his team's shock 2-0 Champions League loss to Bayer Leverkusen. He admitted his heavy squad rotation was a major error. Guardiola made 10 changes from the weekend 2-1 Premier League loss to Newcastle United. Still talking sport, Atalanta have demanded €50 million from Galatasaray to sell Ademola Lookman in January. Gazzetta dello Sport says the Leia are not willing to negotiate the price. Galatasaray are pushing to unite Lookman with his international teammate Victor Osimhen. And that's it on Global TV News Cycle. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365, on StarTimes channel 276. Kindly follow us across all social media platforms now showing on your screen using our Global TV NG. I am Mukhtar Kasim. Thank you for watching.